Hello and welcome to my humble kitchen. I am Chef Amy Symington. I'm a nutrition professor, researcher, and chef at George Brown College. I'm also the culinary nutrition program coordinator at Gilda's Club Greater Toronto. And today I'm going to demo 3 recipes for you. Very easy, and they're related to how to support your immune function. So we're looking at foods today that help to support your immune function. So first and foremost, we want to focus on plant-based foods as much as possible. They contain high levels of fiber. They're very nutrient dense, so they contain high levels of vitamins and minerals, which help to support our immune cells in all of their activities that they do. And they're also functional foods, so they contain vitamins and minerals and macronutrients as well, but they also contain health promoting benefits too. So for example, I like to use lycopene as an example. It's found in tomatoes. It's a powerful antioxidant that may help to reduce one's risk of prostate cancer. Yeah, so today we're working on a mango turmeric lassi. It's a kind of a twist on a traditional classic. And then paired with that, we're going to be serving a rainbow coleslaw. And then on the side of that will be a lentil walnut taco with mango avocado salsa. All of my favorite recipes, and all of these are super easy to make. Stay tuned for the recipes for that. I will go over some of the measurements, but if you know me, I'm more of a cook with what I have as opposed to with a recipe, but the recipes will be available for you if you are one of those people that likes to follow a recipe. So yeah, so first and foremost, we're focusing on plant-based foods, whole plant-based foods in particular. So fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains, and good quality protein. We're not using any processed foods here, or overly processed foods, or highly processed foods, I should say. We are using some processed foods, like yogurt, for example, has been processed. But yeah, minimizing the foods that contain high levels of sugar, salt, unnecessary and unhealthy fats as well. So we're minimizing the use of those. When we talk about an immune boosting diet, the foods that we really want to focus on contain things like vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, B vitamins. So selenium is another one as well. Zinc is another one as well. So making sure that we're getting as much of those nutrients as we possibly can, because those are the ones that help to support immune function. Amino acids is another one as well. There's a few specific ones that are good for your immune function too. I should mention that there's a handout available as well, so that will be available to you too, with just kind of some facts about immune function and things to consume more of, and maybe foods to consume less of. And I'm just focusing on just a few things today. So things like vitamin C in particular, vitamin E, and I'll get into the details as I demonstrate the recipes for you. Okay, cool. So let's get started. So you have the facts stuff. You can read that at your leisure. This is the fun part of the kind of workshop or showcase. So first and foremost, we'll start with the mango lassi. You don't need to have a fancy schmancy Vitamix. You can just use a regular blender. That's totally fine. And what we'll do is we'll add some mangoes. So the recipe calls for, and it makes 6 servings, calls for 3 cups of mangoes. If you want to do a half recipe, do that. Just cut it in half, and it will make 3 servings. Which, I mean, you can, if you're a single person, you can consume all at once, or you can maybe split it up into, your morning, your breakfast, and then your snack in the afternoon, or put it in the fridge for the next day. It will last for 1 to 2 days. Okay, so mangoes in, water in. At this point, instead of water, you could put soy milk or almond milk to add a little bit of extra protein if you wanted to. Soy milk does contain more protein. It's probably the best one because it's a complete protein. So I would recommend that one as much as possible, unless you have an allergy. I'm gonna get this out of the way here. Okay, I'm gonna add some yogurt. So this is a non-dairy yogurt. This brand is Riviera. I also like Yoso. The Riviera is high in protein. It has pea protein in particular that increases the amount of protein that's present in it. Some non-dairy yogurts, especially if you're getting like almond or coconut aren't very high in protein. This one is. Another brand I like is Yoso. That's a good one too. This one's nice, rich and creamy, so I'll put that in. Yeah, and traditional Lassies use yogurt. They also use high levels of sugar, so there's usually a simple syrup that's added to it as well. But in this case, we're just going to let the natural sugars of the mangoes kind of shine through, and I'm going to add a little bit of maple syrup. Okay, next up, we'll add some turmeric. So this is kind of a take, again, as I said, a take on a classic. So we're adding turmeric. You can add ground or you can add fresh, whichever you prefer. So I'm going to add a little bit of, I'll add a little bit of both actually, just mix it up. I have both, why not? So a little bit of that, and then we will add some fresh too. The fresh is very potent. It's really pretty. It stains everything. It's very antioxidant rich. It contains curcumin, which is a powerful antioxidant, which helps to reduce inflammation in the body, which your immune system can actually cause inflammation. And so you want to make sure that you're eating a very pro-inflammatory diet or one that reduces inflammation in the body, because if you do become ill, you want those cells to be focused on, helping your body recover from that illness, as opposed to dealing with the inflammation that your body already has. So eating a high anti-inflammatory diet is really, really key to support your immune system. And plant-based foods are really wonderful. They contain lots of antioxidants which help with that. Okay, so turmeric's in. You can get this at, I just got this in Little India. On the east side of Toronto, but if you don't have the fresh turmeric, just use ground, that's fine. We're gonna add a little bit of black pepper because it helps with the bioavailability of the curcumin that's present, so just putting that in, it also adds a nice little spice to it. And then we're going to add some cardamom, not too much because you don't want it to smell or taste like your grandma's perfume. I like just a little bit, and then maple syrup for sweetener. Cool. So we're going to zhuzh that up over here. Again, as I said, you don't need a Vitamix, but they're a good investment. I've had this one for like 9 years, and I love it. Okay, so just going to make a bit of noise for a minute. You really want to make sure it's nice and smooth. You don't want any chunks. This one's looking perfect, actually. So there we go. That's great. You could also add some, spinach in here if you're not keen on having it that bright, beautiful orange color. You could also add spinach. I always say spinach is the least offensive of the greens when we're talking about green smoothies. Basil is really nice this time of year. Cilantro would be actually perfect. You're welcome to add additional greens to this too. I'm just going to go straight up with the mango lassi. And we'll pour that into a mug. And I did make the 6 servings, so I'll be sharing with my family, maybe my neighbors. Yeah, and then you can just garnish with a little bit of cardamom, maybe some fresh mint. Cheers. I always like to taste it to make sure the sweetness is good. Yum, that's so yummy. Okay, I'm going to leave that over here. And I should mention all of the recipes are coming from the Long Table Cookbook, Plant-Based Recipes for Optimal Health. This is a cookbook that was a collaboration between Gilda's Club Greater Toronto and George Brown College. All of my proceeds go to, all my royalties go to support the social, emotional, and nutritional programming at Gilda's Club Greater Toronto. So I have no problems promoting it because I don't make any money off of it. It's a beautiful cookbook. Please, please, please get it. It's kind of the idea of eating together, taking the time for yourself, and really nourishing your body. And it's all easy, recipes, easy ingredients to find. I think the weirdest ingredient in there is nutritional yeast. So check that out. As I said, all 3 of the recipes that I'm doing today are in the cookbook. Okay, mango lassi, check. Done. Got that out of the way. My son's really into, after he does something, he says, check. We make a check mark after his list. So I've been saying that a lot. Okay, so we'll get this stuff out of the way so I can move on to the rainbow coleslaw. Okay, so rainbow slaw, the recipe here calls for cabbage, red, green. It also calls for carrots and all colors of peppers, so orange, yellow, red, and green. And then the dressing is very simple: olive oil, lime zest, lime juice, garlic, maple syrup, and a little bit of salt. I don't have all of the colors of the peppers today, so I'm going to improvise with different colored carrots. So I've got purple. You can see my basket here. Basically, this is all that's going into the salad. Okay, so over here. All right, so okay, and I've pre-grated some of the carrots. So there's orange and yellow carrot. I'm gonna get a little purple in there too. I like this because you can just use any sort of veggies that would go well in the cabbage. Beets would go really well. I'm gonna throw in some kale too. Again, not in the recipe, but it's very flexible. You could add, pretty much you could add in whatever vegetables you like or whatever you have on hand, but traditionally you put cabbage in the salad. So we've got a little bit of red cabbage. I don't have any green cabbage, so I'm going to use kale instead. There we go. Great. Cool. So, purple carrot. Put that in there. Great. Okay. And way. And then next up, we will put in some red pepper. Chop, chop, chop. So when I'm slicing a red pepper, I always like to take the top off and the bottom off, and then I slice down the side, and then I cut the center out like this. Perfect. Great. Cool. And then just cut little thin slices. It in. If you don't have any peppers at all, that's fine. The recipe calls for 3 different colors. Sometimes peppers can be expensive too, so just omit them if you don't have them, if they're too pricey. The nice thing about summer is produce prices tend to come down because there's an abundance of them. So we'll throw that in there. Some more. Make sure you're using up all of your veggies as well. That's one thing I do not like is food waste. Cool. Okay, so that's good there. And oh, that's my 3-year-old in the background. Working from home. Okay, cool. And now I'm gonna do the kale. I'm gonna first show you how to take the stem off the kale. So this is a darker kale. And we're gonna fold it kind of like a book. And then you just peel it off. That's one way to do it. You can see the stem is gone. You can also kind of get it started and then just push it up like that. Ready? And do it one more time. Okay, and there we go. We've got our kale. I'm just going to chef it on it, so I'm going to roll it and then go through it really quickly. Throw that in. So you can see I'm getting all sorts of colors in there. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Cabbage, key, right? So I've got some nice purple cabbage. Whatever you have in the fridge. Okay. Alrighty, so here we go. Alright. Oh. Okay, perfect. So there we go. That's great. So now we've got that all set, and we're going to mix that up. Okay, cool. Now we're going to do the dressing. So I always like to use mason jars for dressings because then you can just throw everything in and shake, 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 and then pour it on. And if you have extra dressing that you don't want, you can toss it into the fridge. Okay, so for the dressing, we're going to use extra virgin olive oil. I like to use extra virgin olive oil just for our dressings and not for cooking, because it has a lower smoke point, which means it can become carcinogenic at a lower heat than, say, other oils like avocado oil, sesame oil. So I generally like to stick with olive oil for salads, for drizzling. If you're cooking at a very low temperature, then you can use olive oil, but I prefer to use it in salads. So olive oil, then I've got some maple syrup, and we're going to zest this lime. So I'm actually just going to zest the lime right over the salad. Always, always, always use or save the zest of your citrus fruit. It's so important. Well, to minimize waste in particular, but it also, gives a little extra flavor without added fat, salt, or sugar. And there's also some beneficial properties that are found in the skin of citrus fruit that are a good part of an anti-cancer diet. So if you're not going to use it now, what I do is I zest it and then I'll throw it in the freezer and I'll put it into muffins, cakes, smoothies, and it gives it like a little oomph of flavor without, again, added fat, salt, or sugar. Okay, so we've got olive oil, we've got maple syrup, so we've got a fat, and we've got a sweetness, and now we're going to add our acid, which is the lime. So you can use a reamer for this. I generally like to go old school and just use a spoon if you don't have a reamer. One good thing to do with your citrus fruit before you try and squeeze it is just kind of roll it on the table and get the juices going. I did that with this one already, so that in there. Great. And lime is obviously rich in vitamin C, right? A vitamin important for our immune system. It's an antioxidant, which is a good component of an anti-inflammatory diet. And it just tastes great. Just gives it, again, a pop of flavor without any added fat, salt, or sugar. And I should say, when I say no added fat, like I love fat. Fat is good for you. You should be eating lots of fat, but just good, healthy types of fat. So things like extra virgin olive oil, nuts, seeds, nut butter, seed butter, that sort of stuff. Okay, add a little bit of salt in there, and put it all in. Let me shake it up. And then we add that in and toss it all. You can see how beautiful this is getting. Voila! Cool. Great. And then you obviously want to toss it. You can use tongs here. I just am a woman who likes to use her hands. So you can see all of the wonderful vegetables in there. Cabbage in particular is a cruciferous vegetable, which contains sulfuric compounds, which are a good component of an anti-cancer diet, good component of an anti-inflammatory diet. And so just eat them, basically. Red peppers also high in vitamin C, very high in vitamin C. Raw red peppers in particular are very good to consume. They are higher in vitamin C or they're one of the best sources of vitamin C as long as it hasn't been cooked. Vitamin C is kind of one of those vitamins that can be compromised if it's heated up. So you always want to add it in at the very end of cooking. So if you're making a big chili, adding it in at the very end so that the vitamin C is not damaged in any sort of way. And then you reap the benefits of it. Okay, and I've got some cilantro here, just some microgreens, cilantro and basil. So I'll top those up there. Great, Okay, and the recipe actually calls for green onions. I don't have any, and that's okay. I'm gonna use chives. I've got chives fresh from my garden. My son helped me pick these a little bit earlier. And I'm gonna chop those up and put those in. So again, just use what you have. We're in that day and age now that recipes need to be versatile because we don't necessarily have everything on hand and we're not running to the store every 5 minutes. Who wants to do that anyways? I don't. Cool. So there's our beautiful salad. Wonderful. So I'll set that over here beside our delicious smoothie. Cool. And I'm just going to clear the way here for some of my stuff. Okay, cool. So we've got the mango lassi, check. We've got the rainbow slaw. Next up, we're going to do a lentil walnut taco with mango salsa. So stay tuned for that, just as I clean up. Cool. Okay. Great. This is one of my favorite recipes. It was actually developed by two students of mine at George Brown College for the cookbook. So the cookbook, as I said, is a collaboration between George Brown College and Gilda's Club Greater Toronto. So I had some of my large quantity nutrition students come up with different recipes that would potentially be used in the cookbook. So there are some of my students' recipes in the book, which is amazing. This one is one of my favorites because it's easy and it's so delicious. And it's really good for you. It's really high in fiber, high in all those vitamin and macronutrient dense compounds that our body needs in order to support proper immune function. Okay, so first and foremost, we've got lentils. So obviously lentil walnut. There's lentils and walnuts in it. I toasted the walnuts beforehand, and I've cooked the lentils ahead of time. You can use canned. I use dried, and I just soaked them and then cooked them last night, and then they're good to go right now. I'm just going to turn this out so you can see a bit better. Cool. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is show you the ingredients, and then we'll put them into a cast iron pan, cook them up, and then I'll show you the finished product. So my stove is over there, and I'm gonna leave the camera as is because there's really minimal cooking to this. Okay, so onion. The recipe calls for a red onion. I don't have one, so I'm gonna use just a regular onion. Onions and garlic in particular are really great foods to consume for boosting your immune system. Get lots of those into you. I use them for everything. They're so good for you. And contain high levels of fiber. They contain allicin, in particular. Garlic contains allicin, which is a powerful antioxidant. That is a good component of an anti-cancer diet and also an anti-inflammatory diet, and also helps to boost your immune system. So put it in everything. Put it in your dressing. That dressing that I just made, you could have chopped up a clove of garlic and stuck that in there as well. So, cutting onions, you saw that I chopped it in half first, and then I took off the tip, but I left the root intact, and that's just to hold it together so it's easier to cut. I'm going to peel that off, and I keep all of my my peelings from garlic and onions because I make stock out of it afterwards. So carrots, onions, celery, garlic, you can keep it and make a stock right away, or you can throw it in the freezer and make a stock at a later date. Mushroom stems are great in stock too, so don't throw those away because those are a great way to make a nutrient-dense homemade stock. So first, when I'm dicing onions, I go through, but I go through once, but I don't cut through the root, and then I'll usually just do like a one. If you wanted a finer dice, I would do two cuts. And then I run my knife through it again, tip to heel, as I always say. And again, keep that. Makes a delicious stock. Things that don't make a delicious stock, leafy greens, like Swiss chard, don't make a delicious stock. But things like Kale stems you can use. Tomato, if you don't care about the color, you can use leftover pieces of your tomato. Make sure they're clean, obviously clean and not rotten. You want to make sure that there's something that would be okay to consume. Okay, so I've got my onion chopped here. What I'm going to do is saute it out with olive oil, garlic, tomato paste, and spices. So I'll get that started. I'll bring the pan over actually. So first and foremost, we heat our pan with a little bit of oil. So my pan is warm already, so I'm just getting that in there, and it's ready to get the onions going. So we'll heat that up. So spices, I'll show you the spices that we're using. Paprika, chili pepper, cayenne, there's cumin. I also had coriander that I'm using in there as well. Not sure if you can see that. Black pepper, a little bit of salt. And this is a great way to get lots of oomph of flavor without added fat, salt, or sugar. And salt, I mean, there is some salt in here, but it's minimal, and it's to help bring out the spices. Also, too, because I cooked my lentils from scratch, from dry, there's no added salt in it. So when you're using canned lentils, you really want to make sure that you're rinsing them very well to get all that additional sodium kind of rinsed off, because you want to be in control of how much sodium you're adding to your food. Okay, cool. So we've got that. While that's heating up, I'm actually just going to do a couple cloves of garlic here. So again, make sure that I save the skins for the stock. Get garlic into it, so good. And generally what I'll do is I will kind of smash my garlic, and I'll usually let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes, and that actually increases the bioavailability of the allicin that's present in the garlic, and so again, a good component of an anti-cancer diet. So chop that up. Really great in supporting your immune system, immune function. So basically, your immune cells require all sorts of nutrients, micronutrients in particular, to function, just like any other cells. And so making sure that you're not undernourished is very important, because we know that when someone is undernourished or has undernutrition, their immune systems can be compromised. So making sure that you're not getting sufficient protein in particular is very important. And so when we're talking about plant-based protein, we're talking about nuts, seeds, soy like edamame, miso, tofu. Those are really great sources. And we want to make sure we're getting a lot of complete sources of protein that are plant-based as well. So hemp seeds, chia seeds, again, soy, so edamame, tempeh, miso, those are all complete sources. Buckwheat is a complete source of protein, so is quinoa. There's lots of complete sources out there, but just making sure you're getting enough of your protein and knowing where it's coming from. Okay, cool. So I've got the onions, I've got the garlic, I've got my spices. So there's oregano. All of this is listed in the recipe, so check that out. Again, you can mix this up, chili powder, whatever you like in your taco seasoning. You could even use a pre-made taco seasoning if you have that on hand. That's cool too. And we'll add that in. So. I'll bring the computer over in just a sec, so you can actually see what's happening. Great. Okay, so I'm just going to stir that and then add the lentils in. Spices. tomato paste. If you don't have tomato paste, you could use pureed tomatoes, a little bit more of those. I'm just going to let that cook for a little bit while I chop the walnuts and then also make our mango salsa. Mango avocado salsa. It's the best. Okay, cool. So chop the walnuts. So walnuts are really high in vitamin E. Vitamin E is a vitamin. It's also an antioxidant. Really good source. Well, it's found in really good sources of fat. Good for your skin as well. It's a good component of an anti-inflammatory diet. So we're ready for us when the onions and lentils are all cooked out. And then in addition to that, we're going to add a little bit of red wine vinegar at the end there. Okay. Mix all of that together, and that is our taco filling or our taco meat. So things like lentils, walnuts really give a nice like umami, kind of meaty taste and texture. I also like quinoa for kind of a substitute in things like shepherd's pies. Lentils, walnuts, mushrooms, these are all good ones to use. Make a really wonderful, wonderful burger out of those guys as well. Yeah, and again, really good for you. Again, we're focusing on the plant-based proteins, so things like nuts, seeds, whole grains contain protein as well. Like quinoa, for example, it's a pseudo grain, but it is a complete protein. But yeah, that's really what we want to be focusing on for the most part. Okay, so that's good to go. I'm actually going to bring the cast iron pan over here. So again, use what you have. I like my cast iron pan, but use whatever you have. I generally recommend not using non-stick, particularly if you're someone who has had a cancer diagnosis or you're cooking for someone who does have cancer. Yeah, try and avoid non-stick as much as possible. Okay. Great. You could throw some mushrooms in here too if you have them on hand. You can kind of see. Yum. I wish you could smell it. Great. And I'm going to add the walnuts and the red wine vinegar. Yum. Oh my gosh. And this is something you can make on a Sunday for the week ahead. And then just have it in the fridge. And you can have it on taco salad. You don't necessarily have to have it in tacos. Cool. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to set that aside there. Let it cool. I always like to put my hot mitt in front of something that's hot. Just for safety precautions and also to remind myself not to grab it. Okay, great. So next step, we're going to do our mango salsa. So I've got some mangoes here, obviously. If you have fresh, that's great. I do have a fresh one, but guess what? It's not ripe yet. But this is what a mango looks like. And if you were to cut it, you want to get as close to the pit as you possibly can. The pit is very wide and thin, so you're almost cutting it right in half, but not quite. So you're cutting along the side there and there, and then you'll have two kind of halves, and then you'll cut along the sides to get that out. And then if you wanted to, you can cut it into cubes inside the skin, and then use a spoon to scoop it out or a knife to cut it off. And then usually there's a little bit of mango left on the pit, and I like to eat that off myself secretly. And of course, mangoes are really rich in vitamin C, which is something we're eating a lot of today. So yeah, so mango's great, but if you don't have a mango, or if it's not ripe yet, you can use frozen as well. So I'm just going to use frozen here. So we're just going to dice that up. This is such a nice fresh salsa with minimal ingredients. You know what else would work really well? In peach season, peaches would be really great. So this recipe calls for mangoes, lime, avocado. It calls for jalapeno and cilantro. I'm going to omit the jalapeno. My husband does not like it spicy. We also don't have a jalapeno, so I'm just going to omit it today. But you could throw in a jalapeno. If it was just me eating it, I would throw in a whole jalapeno with all the seeds. I like it spicy. Hot peppers are actually a good component of an immune boosting diet. So if you do like it spicy, throw it in. But if you don't, then you don't need to add it. Okay. So we've got our mangoes in there. Yum, diced. Perfect. And I'm going to use an avocado. This one is ripe. Usually with an avocado, you cut it in half first. This one is just a half that I had in the fridge. So I'm just going to use it up. And with the pit, I usually like to take my knife and then turn it like that. And then I usually will just cut it in the skin, just like the mango. Again, obviously you want to make sure you're being very careful though and not cutting all the way through because your hand is right there. You could use a butter knife for this, especially if your avocado is sufficiently ripe. Okay, great. Pop that in. Using a spoon. Great. Okay, cool. Put that in there. Stir it up. I also had some beautiful tomatoes, and I'm just going to add a tomato to the salsa. Again, just keeping things versatile, mixing it up. A lot of times, if you don't have something in your fridge, you're able to, and you need it in a recipe, you're able to substitute. With the Long Table Cookbook in particular, there are a lot of great recommendations in terms of substitutes if you don't happen to have something in your fridge or in your pantry. And I'm just going to dice these up. I'm leaving the seeds in. Sometimes with salsa, people advise you to take the seeds out, but I'm not. I'm going to leave it in. I'm just going to do a half right now. Cool. We've got our lime. So I haven't rolled this one, so I'll show you. Lime again, rich in vitamin C. And we're going to zest that. So if you don't have a rasp, I love it. It's one of my favorite kitchen tools. It's the only kitchen gadget that I really use. And as I said, it helps. It's really great with zesting fruit, but it's also really great with zest or pureeing garlic and ginger, which are also good components of an immune boosting diet. And then we'll put the lime in. You could also throw black beans in here. Crazy. That would be a great addition to this as well if you were just having the salsa on its own. Cool. Got it there. Great. And the recipe actually doesn't call for any salt at all. Cool. So we're going to mix that up. Let me have a peek. There we go. Mix, mix, mix. Yum. Little beans. Okay, and then cilantro. So I'm just going to chop up a little bit of cilantro here. Add a little bit of greenage. Again, if you didn't have cilantro, that's cool. You could use parsley, you could use basil. You could omit it if you're not a cilantro fan. Great, that looks beautiful. Okay, cool. So that's it. We've got the salsa. We've got our taco filling. We just need our tacos to fill them. Cool. Okay, so here I've got 3 different types of taco shells. One's a jalapeno, one's a chipotle, and then one's just a plain corn. This is non-GMO, organic. I mean, if you're not comfortable consuming processed corn, or if it's doesn't sit well with you, there's other things you can use. You can use whole grain tortilla wraps. You can make your own tortillas, whatever you're comfortable with. I personally, for this one in particular, for this recipe in particular, the crunch is really key. You could use the taco meat for nachos. So if you had some nice, maybe some blue organic chips to use, you can spread those on. Or if you don't have that, that's cool too. If you have regular nachos, that's totally fine as well. Whatever you like, whatever you have in your pantry and your cupboard, use that and feel good about it. So I just have these guys. I'm going to fill up these tacos with the taco meat and then the salsa. So again, really fiber-rich filling we have here. Lentils, walnuts, super yummy. Great. And a little bit of salsa on top. Yum. I have a habit of filling my tacos too full and then wearing them all over my face. I don't care. They're delicious. So this is something you should definitely make for a friend, family member. And even if we're not eating all together right now at a long table and sharing and passing food, the recipes in the book or your favorite recipe that's health promoting, feel free to make it and share it with your friends and your neighbors that are in close proximity. Can be a little porch fairy and drop things off and then maybe have a meal together via Zoom or FaceTime. That's nice as well. It's a good way to connect and stay connected and share your meals. Still share your meals. Okay, I'm going to top these off with a little bit of micro basil and micro cilantro. Herbs are a great way to get greens into you. They contain all sorts of vitamins and minerals, and they also have a good oomph of flavor, right? Okay, cool. So you can see that. Beautiful. Yum. And it will go nicely with our lassi and our rainbow coleslaw. So I just really want to say thank you for joining me. And remember again too, when we're talking about immune boosting foods, we're not talking about anything crazy. We're just talking about fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains, and good quality protein. Okay, so take care of yourself, be well, and be kind to everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.